Mick White received a PhD from Texas A&M University, and he is now teaching at Pittsburgh State University in Kansas. Is that Kansas, Mick?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kansas. And he's come down here to read from some work that he has. I've just read his book, Professed. It's awesome. It's about Austin, it's about the University of Texas, and it really, I mean, there are parts of it that just, you know, it's just like being home and stuff. And he talks about Austin and the UT campus in ways that are very interesting and very personal. So I'm looking forward to hearing you read, Mick. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. And I never took rock star lessons. Do you have to? How do you do this?
You were right.
That you can see right in there. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Also, Facebook.
Good for the IRS, too. Demonstration, evidence.
There you go. Good. Thank you, Joe, for having me out here today. This is I'm really pleased to be here. It's always a pleasure to come back to Austin. I lived here for a long time. I remember I was hanging around the chili parlor once, back around 1979, 1978, and one of the bartenders said, "Oh, well, Austin will be to the second half of the 20th century what Paris was the first half." And I don't know if that really happened, but whatever happened in Austin, it was very interesting, and it still is. It's when you come back, there's this endless dynamism of things happening, something becoming something else, which is a lot of fun to see. I'm going to read a little tiny bit from the beginning of this, and then I'm going to read something new. This is Professed. This is the new one. Set at the big university, the unnamed but large university in Austin, which is across the street here. This is the first section of it. I wrote a lot of this book while I was in graduate school, and I was taking a class in the Transcendentalist. And so, in a way, this is a book I think sort of influenced by Emerson and everybody else. See if you can see how. At the end of the semester, the week after a cheerless and lonely Thanksgiving, on a dreary, rainy day, I was trudging along with mobs of young students through Parliament Hall, the English building, when someone called my name. I turned around. Damp, dripping students were coming and going in the hallway, many chatting on cell phones, some hooked up to iPods, jostling along with backpacks and books. Then I saw Dr. Camille Braddock, a professor I'd had in graduate school. "Tom," she said, "what luck? I was just thinking about you." I felt a sudden wave of gilded anxiety. She had no reason to be thinking about me. I asked, "What?" Dr. Braddock stepped between a pair of giggling girls and came over. She was dry, had probably been teaching in one of the classrooms upstairs, and trim and cheerful, carrying an armload of multicolored folders. Student work probably. Even professors had to grade, sometimes, a little. "Absolutely," Dr. Braddock said. "I was thinking about you. I was wondering if you might be able to do me a favor." A favor. I looked away down the hall to the retreating girls, still giggling, and it briefly occurred to me to wonder just what the heck they were so happy about. And then I looked back at Dr. Braddock. It was one of those day-to-day moments that everyone has at times, I think, and seemed to happen to me very regularly. Moments that open up into an eternity, an endless, unfillable void where a person can instantly pause to consider just how screwed up a life can become. A favor. I was already doing too much and following through on too little. I was a postdoc, a lecturer, an adjunct, a debt slave, a serf. I was teaching 2 sections of Intro to Literature and a section of Composition and Rhetoric at the university, and 3 sections of Composition at the community college. I was tending bar 3 nights a week to get enough money to at least make payments on my student loans. I was scrambling around trying to find a tenure-track job, and Dr. Braddock, who should have known or at least sensed my status and situation, wanted to ask me a favor. A favor? I asked. I was starting to come up out of the void, and I was angry and I was depressed. A favor? You have a minute, Dr. Braddock asked, or you have to go teach? I checked my watch. I had 20 minutes till the next class. No, I'm free right now. Excellent, come over to my office. I turned and followed Dr. Braddock up the hallway I'd just come down. The floor was a little muddy and slippery from all the water the wet students had tracked in, but Dr. Braddock calmly stepped along in an expensive pair of black boots. Faculty offices opened on either side of the hall. The office doors had large frosted glass windows in them, and many professors had photos and newspaper clippings taped to the doors, cartoons, funny sayings, poems. Dr. Braddock's door, though, was bare, creamy whitish gray paint, frosted gray window, a cardboard tag for name and office hours. Over the years, I'd been past this door dozens of times, maybe hundreds, but I'd never gone through it, not even when I'd been one of her students. Come on in, Dr. Braddock said. She unlocked the door and opened it. Have a seat. Dr. Braddock's desk faced the door. Beyond it was a window. A window. My office, if you could even call it that, was stuck in the dank, dark basement of the undergraduate library, a cubicle I shared with a pair of adjuncts from the Spanish department and a leaky sewage pipe. Dr. Braddock's office was big and dry and had a window. It was life on the tenure track. I almost felt like crying. Sit down, please. Dr. Braddock dumped her big armload of student work on the desktop. A red folder slipped off onto my side of the desk, and I picked it up and put it back. I sat down. I waited to hear about the favor. Just a second, Dr. Braddock said. There's something I need to check. Well, sure. Make the surf wait. Life on the tenure track also. I sat back while Dr. Braddock checked her email. There were bookshelves on either side of her desk, and behind the chair I was sitting in, I recognized a few titles. Gatsby's West of the Imagination, Nash's Wilderness of the American Mind, Desert Solitaire, Great Plains, Regionalism and the Humanities. Dr. Braddock worked in literary and photographic narratives in the American West. So, how are you? Dr. Braddock turned away from her computer and looked at me. You're lecturing, right, on the job market? Yeah, I said. I interviewed at Northeast Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. Northeast Oklahoma, she said slowly. There was a little trace of, what, mockery, pity in her voice, like she was really saying, where is that? But what the hell, Northeast Oklahoma was a real job with health insurance. She asked, how'd that go? I haven't heard anything yet, I said. Well, it's rough out there, Dr. Braddock said. The job market's tight. I shrugged. That's what everybody says. Oh, I know you'll find something good, Dr. Braddock said. But listen, I want to ask you a favor. Finally, the favor. I asked, yeah? Dr. Braddock leaned forward like she was about to share a secret. Her chair squeaked. I'm going out to California over break, she said. I'm going to do some work at the Bancroft Library, and I was wondering, thinking, hoping, that maybe you could come by and feed the cats while I'm gone? The cats, I asked. I slumped a little in the chair. I thought, well, these cats are less trouble than dogs. Yeah, my cats. They need somebody to come by a couple times a day and feed them. It shouldn't be too much trouble. They're older cats. The void opened up again. Despair leaped out. I do too much. I don't follow through enough. It was the end of the semester. In a few days, I would have 150 or so papers to grade, a job search to organize, a life to lead. Despair seeped out of the void, enveloped me. I was going to say yes, of course I was. I couldn't say no, ever. My parents raised me to be nice, to be agreeable, to be helpful, and I am. It's a quality that has never served me well. When friends need help moving, I move. When students think their grade is too low, I raise the grade. Dentists and doctors schedule my appointments at weirdly inconvenient hours. Butchers sell me bad meat. I pay too much for my car, and I pay mechanics too much for not fixing it. I can't say no. If I was a girl, I'd be pregnant all the goddamn time with a half dozen or so brats from previous favors, previous yeses, squalling around unfed and dirty diapers. It's just the way I am. When I look in the mirror, I see a very weak man. Yeah, I guess, I said. The void closed. The despair I knew would linger. I mean, sure. I don't have any plans or anything. I like cats. Excellent, Dr. Braddock said. I knew you were the man for the job. So anyway, that's just the opening of it. One of my professors at A&M, Dr. Killingsworth, said when he read this, almost every page he wanted to shout out, no, don't do it, don't do it. And I think that's one of the goals I have in writing, is to get you involved to say, no, these characters are making bad decisions which they will regret. So, this book, like the other two books, are set in Austin. And I don't know, I'm not writing about anything Austin now. I think maybe I've said all I can say, but I mean, I can change my mind at any time on that. I have about 200 pages of a novel that I might finish someday. But right now I'm working on a book set in West Virginia, which is where I pretty much grew up. It's sort of a composite novel The title is Burnt House, the name of a town. And it sort of goes through the town and different stories about the people who live there. And so I'm going to read one of them. It's kind of short, it's only a few pages. In it, see, the two main characters in it are a girl named Brandy, a girl named Liza. Brandy's got a boyfriend named Mark. Liza's got a boyfriend named Naked Jackson. Naked, he never wears a shirt, not even to go deer hunting. And so this is some stuff that happens to him. And it's called Worthless. By spring, Brandy and Liza were back being friends again. One evening, after she got off work at the Food Land in Glenville, Brandy drove back up through the college where Liza was waiting at the campus bookstore for a ride back to Burnt House. Brandy found Liza standing just inside the door talking to a couple of boys. She honked the horn. After another minute or so, Liza came out and got in the car. "Well, you took long enough," Brandy said. "Well, you took longer," Liza said. "I've been waiting, I don't know how long, hours at least." "Well, waiting won't hurt you any," Brandy said. "And anyway, you wouldn't believe what Ronnie had me doing today." Ronnie was the manager at the Food Land, a fat, balloony snob. "He wanted me to mop the floors. He wanted me to take out the trash. He wanted me to clean the whole store. He thinks he's so important, bossing me around like that." "Yeah, he's awful big feeling," Liza said. "Hey, let's go buy Naked's and see what he's doing." Brandy shook her head but didn't say anything. Naked Jackson. Liza was supposed to be broke up with him again. But still, Brandy drove down the hill and through town and then up Sycamore Run. She slowed down a bit when she got to Naked's trailer. "His truck's not here," Brandy said. "Nope," Liza said. She craned around in her seat, looking over the trailer as they passed. "I didn't think he would be." "Well, then why?" "Well, maybe he's over at Ace's," Liza said. "We should probably stop there." "I don't know," Brandy said. I should probably get home." "Oh, you hate going home," Liza said. "You hate going home, but you're always in a hurry to get back to Burnt House. You're just really crazy. You know you are." "No," Brandy said, but no. I mean, it was true, sort of. Brandy hated going home. There was nothing there except people being mad all the time. Mom, Daddy, and Jessica, all of them mad about something all the time and arguing and complaining. Daddy gone a lot and half the time threatening not ever come back, which would be a good thing, but it was mostly all big talk because he always did come back sick and drunk and tired and mad. There wasn't any place for him to go. There wasn't any place at all, it seemed like, for any of them. Daddy should have left a long time ago, taken them along so they could live decent, but now it was too late and they're all stuck at Burnt House hating each other. And Mark, it wasn't too different over at the Talbots. Brandy would go over there to see Mark, and old man Talbot would gripe and grouch and pout and be hateful to everybody. He lived in that house 60 years or more and it got him nothing but being mad. He should have moved on too. He even said so once. He said he should have moved to Weirton and worked in the steel mills, or he should have moved to Detroit and built cars. But he stayed in Burnt House like a damn fool, and he spent his time being mad at people. But Mark wasn't a fool. Mark was going to leave. Mark wasn't going to stay in Burnt House. "It won't take long to stop by Ace's," Liza said, "and it's on the way home, too." "What?" Brandy asked. "Oh, Ace's house." Liza wanted to get high, of course. "You won't be late getting home," Liza said. Brandy thought of her mother getting mad about taking so long to get home from work, like it was any of her business. I can't stand that, Brandy thought. People talking and spying or gossiping and watching each other like a hawk. "It's not right," Brandy said aloud. "Huh?" Liza asked. "What?" "Nothing." And that Ace Everett, Brandy thought. He was just like all the other boys she knew. Stupid, good for nothing, worthless, all of them. All the men. All the ones who drove slowly up and down the road in their pickups, the ones who sat around loafing at Butchie's store or Page's store, the ones in town who pretended to go to college or sold dope. Her daddy, too, and her uncles, all worthless. Old man Talbot was smart and he'd worked hard, but he was so mean he was worthless. Mark was smart, too, and he worked hard, even though his mom was from Burnt House. He'd grown up in Minnesota, and he was different. Smart, not worthless. He'd been to a real college. He was going to do something once he got away from that old man. Poor Mark, he just didn't get how worthless and stupid everyone else in Burnt House was. Once, she tried to explain how her daddy got his eye poked out and dropped the baby off the roof at the same time and busted the baby's head, but it was frustrating. "He was up on the roof working and a nail hit him," Brandy said. "A nail hit him?" Mark asked, amazed. He was so out of it sometimes, smart but still not knowing. How did a nail hit him? I don't know, Brandy said. I wasn't up there too. All I know is a nail hit him in the eye. They had the baby up there. Mark said, "The baby?" "Yeah," Brandy said, "the baby. Her little cousin Jojo. They dropped him off the roof and busted his little head." Brandy took a deep breath, sighed. It was almost too hard to explain. See, they was all up there on the roof of the baby, and they was all drunk, and they're all just stupid. Mark looked at her, appalled. It made her mad, that look. Stupid, innocent, superior look. But at least Mark wasn't worthless. He was going to take her along when he left Burnt House. He wasn't anything like Ace Everett or Naked Jackson or her daddy or her uncles or any of the others. We're all worthless with nothing to look forward to but smoking dope and living up some holler somewhere and raising chickens and going on welfare or whatever. Nothing, Brandy said again to Liza. Nothing's right. Ace lived in a pale brown trailer wedged in a holler off Sleeth Run. Naked's truck wasn't out front, but Ace's old Chevy Nova was there, and Brandy parked behind it. The girls got out and went up the steps. Liza banged on the door, and after a minute or so, Ace stuck his shaggy head out. What? Ace asked. Oh. Then he said, oh. We came looking for Naked, Liza said. Thought we'd say hello. Well, Ace said. He opened the door and let the girls in. Naked was here, but now he's somewhere else. Somewhere else was the name of a beer joint over at Gilmer Station. When Brandy was younger and go out at night, 15, 16 years old, her mom would make her check in every now and then, call home from a payphone. And Brandy would call and say, oh, we're going somewhere else, which is vague enough and also true, and her mom never caught on or didn't want to catch on, or if she did catch on, it didn't matter too much anymore. Liza sat down on the couch and Brandy sat next to her. Across the small room, a television with the sound turned off was tuned to the Mr. Cartoon Show, and next to the TV was an aquarium with guppies and goldfish floating around the water with a real-looking human skull. Ace sank down into a sagging chair, looking tired. You girls looking for something? Ace asked. Maybe, Liza said. Looking for Naked, at least. Ace brought out some weed and some papers and rolled up a joint, and then another. Never know where people are going, Ace said. Naked, he left here a while ago. Ace always sounded kind of stupid and bad-tempered, and maybe he was kind of stupid and bad-tempered. People said he was afraid of girls, that he might be one of those homos, but sometimes he'd be around and he'd smile at Brandy with his snaggly, ugly teeth, smiled like he was sweet and sick at the same time. Whatever he was worthless. Brandy never wanted to be around him unless she had to. He was Naked's friend, and Naked was Liza's boyfriend, at least some of the time. The pot passed around, and Ace talked about his mother's cat that got hit by a car and died, and how he cut it open to see what was busted inside it, and how he talked to some guy Brandy didn't know who broke off his girlfriend, and he talked about he went to Clarksburg last week, and Liza talked about Naked some, she talked about her classes at Glenville State, and a couple more joints went around. Brandy only half listened. Ace and Liza were both big talkers. They were both big talkers. They acted like they knew something nobody else knew, something secret and all important, and knowing things made them big. Brandy's daddy was like that too. A lot of people were. They thought they were big. Ford Mustang, 1965 Ford Mustang, it's the best car ever made, they'd say, for example. And Daddy said stupid shit like that all the time. And then the big talker would nod. That nod. That was the sign that they knew the secret, that the big talker was important, that you couldn't argue against him. Just about everybody did it. All the men, some of the women, all the big talkers. Old man Talbot, Ace, Butchie at the store, Page at his store, everybody. Now you see, I know, Daddy would say, and he'd nod. And he never do a damn thing, not even when he was sober. None of them ever knew anything, all talking big. Just look at Ace, Brandy thought, thinking about him and trying to ignore him at the same time. Big talker, and he's got nothing worth talking about. You ever see Dan Morris shoot a rifle? Ace asked. Brandy didn't even know who Dan Morris was or care. Ace said, he can dot an I on a printed page at 300 yards. The nod. 300 yards, I stepped it off myself. Nod. Wow, Liza said. She was stoned. But Brandy realized she was stoned too. Ah, shit, she thought. Oh, well. She was really only half listening, and maybe even that was too much since the big talkers weren't saying anything worth hearing. She looked at the TV if the sound turned off, Mr. Cartoon showing a Bugs Bunny, Elmer chasing bugs, just like everything else in the world, but bugs would be okay. Elmer was stupid, just like all those men. He knew it all. He was another worthless nodder. In the aquarium next to the TV, a little catfish came swimming out the eye hole of that skull and nosed around a little bit and went swimming back inside the skull. Man, Brandy suddenly said, that skull's freaking me out. Liza and Ace stopped talking and looked at the tank. Why do you even have that thing? Brandy asked. It's a decoration, Liza said, I guess. It's a real skull, too, Ace said. No, Liza said. Off a real human being, Ace said. He nodded. Off an old dead lady. Nod. So there. Brandy had been slouching down on the couch, stoned, but now she sat up straight, shrinking back from the damn skull. What an ignorant big talker. A skull in a fish tank. A real skull. It's disgusting. That's not real, Liza said. How'd you get a real skull? Found it, Ace said. I made it clean, Ace said. Stop, Brandy said. Ace sat there smiling at his bad teeth, lank brown hair framing his puffy fat face. It was just big talk to him, showed how important he was with some old dead lady's skull in his fish tank, somebody's old dead grandma. The room was silent for a moment, and they all stared stoned at the skull and listened to the tank bubble. The guppies and the goldfish floated around and did their fish things, and then the little catfish came careening out an eye hole again. Brandy looked away. Oh, Liza said. No, I hate that thing, Brandy said. Ace sat back looking pleased. We have to go, Brandy said. I have to get home. The girls ended up buying a ½ ounce of weed, and they trooped out to the car and got in. Ace stood in the doorway of the trailer, smiling at them, leaning against the door jamb, his arms crossed in front of his chest. Brandy thought he looked like he was going to off the nod, the rat. I was getting freaked out in there, Liza said. He thinks he's so big, Brandy said. She started the car and shifted into reverse and then stopped. Shit, she said. I hate to drive through town stoned like this. The cops will see us. Liza thought, well, just go over the top of the hill there. She pointed up the road past Ace's trailer. This comes out on Alice Road. We'll be almost home. It's going to be all muddy, Brandy said. Ace was still leaning in the doorway, all high, looking, staring at them. We'll get bogged down. Oh, it's fine, Liza said. I drive it all the time. You do not, Brandy said. Your mom never lets you drive her car. Well, when I sneak out at night, I drive it all the time. You do not, Brandy said. But she went ahead and backed the car out of Ace's driveway, not looking up at Ace, and she didn't go back through town, but headed up over the hill. She was aware she was loaded, really loaded, high, stoned, and she drove slowly with both hands on the wheel. Trees closed in around the car, but the road itself wasn't too bad, mostly gravel with a few muddy spots going up through the woods. Brandy had a cassette deck in the car, and Liza fumbled around with the tapes and stuck in Peter Frampton's live album in and turned the sound up. Brandy thought it sounded worse, louder, or blown out speakers, but she drove slowly on, and they came out near along the top of a ridge with the woods above them on the right, but a view to the left of well-fed cows grazing in pastures with more woods in the distance and more woods. This is the Westfall place, Liza said over the music. You know about that, Danny Westfall? Brandy thought for a moment, I know Sarah Westfall. Yeah, Danny's little sister, Liza said. She made it her business to know everybody. This is their cousin's place. This is a nice farm. They got a lot of money. Then they went back in the woods again. Brandy gripped the wheel tight, focusing, driving, trying to stay on the road. Frampton wanted to know if she felt like he did, and she figured she probably didn't. When they came to the wet places in the road, Brandy slowed up even more and eased the car through the mud. You need to speed up, Liza said. You need to hit that mud fast and just drive through it. No. That was crazy. Slow through the mud holes. That's what old man Talbot said, and for once he probably knew what he was talking about. He drove trucks over the muddy mountains working in the oil fields all those years. That's crazy. Go faster, Liza said. That's the way I always drive this road. You do not, Brandy said. And even if she did, it was stupid. Elizabeth Marie, you're the biggest liar there is. What? Just then a Jeep came barreling around the curve straight at them down the middle of the road. Brandy hit the brakes and Liza screamed, and the car swerved over into the shallow ditch and thudded up against the bank. The Jeep skidded past them and then stopped back down the road. Oh, Brandy gasped. She held on to the steering wheel and stared straight ahead. Oh. Damn, Liza said. She craned around and looked out the back. Oh, that's that little Kenny Woofter. Brandy saw that the Frampton cassette was halfway out of the deck. It must have ejected itself. The car was off too. Did it turn itself off? Brandy didn't remember switching it off. Behind, the Jeep reversed and backed up until the driver's window was opposite Brandy's. He was just a kid. Brandy rolled down her window. I'm sorry, Kenny Woofter said. Liza leaned across Brandy. Yeah, you about killed us, she said. You need to watch where you're going. I'm sorry, Kenny Woofter said again. I was out practicing. He was just a kid, eyes wide and mouth slack. Wow, Brandy said. She shook her head. It was crazy. She didn't even remember turning the car off unless it turned itself off. No matter. She shifted into park and turned the key and it started right up. She pulled the transmission into drive and the car gave a little lurch but didn't go anywhere. When she pushed the gas, the wheels just spit leaves and mud. Little Kenny Woofter just sat in his Jeep staring open-mouthed, worthless as any grown man. We're stuck, Brandy said. Damn it. Liza leaned over Brandy out the window. Kenny, get out there and push. He can't push us out, Brandy said. He's too little. Kenny said. I'll go get my dad. He's got a winch on his pickup. Well, that's great, Brandy said. She just sat staring up the muddy road to where it curved into the trees. Well, hurry up, Liza said. We've got places to be. Kenny backed his Jeep up and made an 8-point turn to get around and head back to his home. Worthless, stupid, Brandy said. Stupid, worthless. He's okay, Eliza said. He's only 14, 13. He's young. He's an idiot, Brandy said. Eliza settled back in her seat and pulled a joint from inside her shirt and lit it. Might as well have some fun, she said. Some fun. Brandy inhaled. All these boys are stupid. Smoke was filling the car despite Brandy's open window. Eliza rolled down her window too. She said, some of them I guess are stupid. Brandy said, I've got this idea. Wait. I'm thinking I should get pregnant, right? Liza coughed and stared at Brandy. What? Yeah, Brandy said. She took a hit off the joint and passed it to Liza. No, really, you don't want a baby. Well, maybe not, Brandy said. She exhaled. I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe Mark will take him with me if I have a baby. Liza said, he'll run away. That's what he'll do. Brandy didn't say anything. She stood there looking straight ahead, waiting to get pulled out of the mud. The end.